Is there anyone else to be joined in the group, Mataji?
I think Tejasvi was there before,
She
and
gave her name, but she never attended it.
yeah, I think uh, let's see.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Like,
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, can I just ask Vaishnavi Mataji something?
Yes.
Can you just shift my name to chapter number 14?
Okay.
And I only want to recite chapter number 14, not 11.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, I think yes, we
Hare Krishna.
can. Hare Krishna, Vaibhav. Yes, Vaishnavi, you can start saying the pranam mantra.
Yes, Mataji. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपाय कदा मह्यं ददान्ति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you're on phone today also?
Yes, I'm on phone today also. Just give me a minute. Okay. Meanwhile, yes, Vaishnavi can start doing the screen share and start reading.
Mataji.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
The Nectar of Devotion, Chapter 1, right?
Yes. Yes.
Is it visible to everyone?
Yeah, Mataji.
Okay. It got hanged. Wait a minute, okay. Chapter 1, Characteristics of Pure Devotional Service. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 29th chapter, verse 12 and 13, Srila Kapila Deva, while instructing his mother, has given the following characteristics of pure devotional service. My dear mother, those who are my pure devotees and who have no desires for material benefit or philosophical speculation have their minds so much engaged in my service that they are never interested in asking me for anything except to be engaged in that service. They do not even beg to live in my abode with me. There are five kinds of liberation, namely to become one with the Lord, to live with the Supreme Lord on the same planet, to have the same features as the Lord, to enjoy the same opulences as the Lord, and to live as a companion of the Lord. A devotee, what to speak of rejecting material sense gratification, does not even want any of the five kinds of liberation. He is satisfied simply with discharging loving service to the Lord. This is the characteristic of pure devotion. In the above statement by Kapila Deva from Srimad Bhagavatam, the actual position of a pure devotee is described, and primary characteristics of devotional service are also defined. Further characteristics of devotional service are described by Rupa Goswami with evidences from different scriptures. He stated that there are 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, which are as follows. Pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. Pure devotional service is the beginning of auspiciousness. Pure devotional service automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure. Pure devotional service is rarely achieved. Those in pure devotional service deride even the conception of liberation. Pure devotional service is the only means to attract Krishna. Krishna is all attractive, but pure devotional service attracts even him. This means that pure devotional service is even transcendently stronger than Krishna himself, because it is Krishna's internal potency, relief from the material distress. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that one should surrender unto him, giving up all other engagements. The Lord also gives his word there that he will protect surrendered souls from the reactions of all sinful activities. Srila Rupa Goswami says that the distresses from sinful activities are due both to the sin themselves and to the sin committed in our past lives. Generally, one commits sinful activities due to ignorance, but ignorance is no excuse for evading the reaction. Sinful activities. Sinful activities are of two kinds: those that are mature and those that are not mature. The sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment are called mature. The many sinful activities stored within us for which we have not yet suffered are considered immature. For example, a man may have committed criminal acts but not yet been arrested for them. Now, as soon as he is detected, arrest is awaiting him. Similarly, for some of our sinful activities, we are awaiting distresses in future, and for others, which are mature, we are suffering at the present time. In this way, there is a chain of sinful activities and their concomitant distresses, and the conditioned soul is suffering life after life due to these sins. He is suffering in the present life the results of sinful activities from his past life, and he is meanwhile creating further sufferings for his future life. Mature sinful activities are exhibited if one is suffering from some chronic disease, if one is suffering from some legal implications, if one is born in a low and degraded family, or if one is uneducated or very ugly. There are many results of past sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment, and we may be suffering in the future due to our present
Vaishnavi, you can
sinful
explain
activities.
what you have read till now. Then we
Yes,
can.
Mata. Yeah. So, in the first few paragraphs, it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, 29, chapter, verse 12 and 13 by Srila Kapila Deva while instructing his mother that the pure devotees who not desire material benefit or mental speculations and always get engaged in the devotional service of the Lord are very dear, and they do not beg to live in his abode with him. And in the second paragraph, there are 5 kinds of liberation, namely to become one with Lord, to live with the Lord on the same planet, to have same features as the Lord, to enjoy the opulences as the Lord, or to live as a companion of the Lord. The pure devotee always try to reject the material sense gratification, but not even ask for these 5 kinds of liberation as well. And they are always satisfied simply by discharging the loving service to the Lord, and that is the characteristic of pure devotion. And in the further lines, Srila Rupa Goswami, with evidences from the different scriptures, have given us the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, which are: pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. It is the beginning of all auspiciousness. It is it automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure, and it is rarely achieved. Uh, the pure devotees even get derived from the conception of liberation, and this pure devotional service always attracts Krishna because it is the internal potency of Krishna, which is more transcendently stronger than even himself. So, in Bhagavad Gita, as Lord says, the conditioned souls should surrender unto him and give up all other engagements so that they are not into ignorance and committing sinful activities due to that. And this is not an excuse to be given for the sinful activities we have committed. And it is said that there are two kinds of sinful activities, which are mature and immature. The one we are suffering at the present moment are the mature, and the one we have stored and not yet suffered are the immature. Just like the analogy given that a man may have committed criminal act but not yet arrested, but once he is detected, arrest is awaiting for him. Similarly, for our sinful reactions, we are awaiting distresses in the future, and for other mature activities, we are suffering at the present.
Yes.
Yeah. There's one more paragraph. No. Just like the mature activities are exhibited in one's suffering with a chronic disease, some legal implication, or born in a low and degraded family, or maybe uneducated and very ugly. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Next, somebody can read.
Mataji, may I read?
Yes, Rachita.
So there are many results of the past sinful. There are many results of past sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment, and we may be suffering in the future due to our present sinful activities. But all of these reactions to sinful deeds can immediately be stopped if we take to Krishna consciousness. As the evidence for this, Rupa Goswami quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam 11th Canto 14th chapter verse 9 that this verse is in connection with Lord Krishna's instruction to Uddhava, where he says, "My dear Uddhava, devotional service unto me is just like a blazing fire, which can burn into ashes, unlimited fuel supplied to it. The purpose is that as the blazing fire can burn any amount of fuel to ashes, the devotional service to the Lord in Krishna consciousness can burn up all the fuels of sinful activities. For example, in the Gita, Arjuna thought that fighting was a sinful activity, but Krishna engaged him on the battlefield under his order, and so the fighting became the devotional service. Therefore, Arjuna was not subjected to any sinful reactions. So in this paragraph, there are various sinful activities which we are suffering at this present moment, and in future, based on our present action, we might suffer. But until unless the Lord does not engage you to do those sinful activities, then we won't suffer. That is what this paragraph is telling us. So Krishna consciousness is like a blazing fire, wherein all our sinful actions, reactions to those actions are burned. So it's like a fuel into it. But so they have given the example of Arjuna in the Mahabharata war, where Arjuna thought fighting was a sinful activity, but since Krishna, being his charioteer friend and a family member, had asked him to fight because as his orders. That is what that is why Arjuna fought. But when he fought the war, he had taken into devotion. He performed his service towards the Lord, the form of devotional service. So therefore, Arjuna was not subjected to any sinful reaction.
Okay.
Should I read the next paragraph?
Yes.
One second, Mataji. I'll just give me a minute. I'll just charge my charger. Give me a minute. Um, so, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes another verse from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 33rd chapter, verse 6, in which Devahuti addresses her son Kapila Deva and says, "My dear Lord, there are 9 kinds of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting. Anyone who hears your pastimes, who chants your glories, who offers you obeisances, who thinks of you, and in this way executes any of the 9 kinds of devotional service, even if he is born in a family of dog eaters like the lowest grade of mankind, becomes immediately qualified to perform sacrifices. As such, how is it possible that anyone actually engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness has not become purified? It is not possible. One who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service has without doubt become freed from all the contaminations of material sinful activities. Devotional service therefore has the power to actually nullify all kinds of reactions to sinful deeds. A devotee is nevertheless always alert not to commit any sinful activities. This is his specific qualification as a devotee. Thus, the Srimad Bhagavatam states that by performing devotional service, a person who was born even in a family of dog eaters may become eligible to take part in the performance of the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Vedas. It is implicit in this statement that a person born into a family of dog eaters is generally not fit for performing yajna or sacrifice. The priestly caste is in charge of performing these ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Vedas is called the Brahmana order. Unless one is a Brahmana, he cannot perform these ceremonies. So in this paragraph, if a person does not perform devotional service, so his sinful activities, the reactions over them upon performing sinful activities will not go away. And as per Kapila Muni's explanation, Kapila Muni's opinion, if one performs devotional service with his heart and mind towards Lord Krishna, his sinful actions of the past as well as the present is nullified. So even a dog eater Chandala can also come into the platform of Krishna consciousness only by following the 9 kinds of devotional service, that is hearing, chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam.
Now, shall I read, Mataji?
Yes.
A person is born in a Brahmin family or in a family of dog eaters due to his past activities. If a person born in a family of dog eater, it means or that his past activities were all sinful. But in even such a person takes a path of devotional service and begins to chanting the holy names of Lord Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He it at once to fit to perform the ritualistic ceremonies. This means that all the sinful reactions have immediately become neutralized. So in this paragraph said either the person is born in a Brahman family or the person is belonging in a dog eater's family. It means that he's belonging from a dog eater's family because of his past activities were very sinful. Then after that also, if a person follow the ritual path of Krishna, that is the chanting, that is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, then he is one that is fit for the ritualistic ceremonies, and due to which reason all this sinful reaction have immediately will become neutralized. It is stated in the Padma Puran that there are four kinds of effect due to sinful activities, which are listed as follow: the effect that is not yet crucified, the effect that is lying as seed, and the effect that is already mature, and the effect that is almost mature. It also stated that all these four effects become immediately vanquished for those who surrenders unto Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu and becomes engaged in his devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. So in Padma Puran, there are four kind of effects always with the sinful activities. The first is that the effect that is not being fruitified. The second one that is lying in seed. Third one, the effect that is already been mature, and the fourth one, the effect that is almost mature. If all these effects will be vanquished, if one surrenders into the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it means into the devotional service of Krishna consciousness. Those effects described as almost mature refer to distress for one is suffering at present, and the effects lying as seed and in the core of the heart, where there is a certain stock of sinful desire, where are like seed. The Sanskrit word katmu means that they are almost ready to produce the seed or the effect of the seed. An immature effect refer to the case where the seeding has not begun. For this statement of Padma Puran is understood that material contamination is subtle, it beginning its fruition and results, and how one suffers which result in a form of distress are part of a great chain. In beginning of the fruition and result, and how one can suffer such result in a form of distress or a part of great chain. When one catches some disease, it is often very difficult to ascertain the cause of a disease, where it's originated and how it's maturing. The suffering of disease, however, does not appear all of a sudden. It actually takes time. And as in the medical field, for the precaution's sake, the doctor injects a vaccine to prevent the growing of contamination. The practical injection to stop all the fruitful of the seeds, all the sinful activities, it's simply engagement in Krishna consciousness. So Mataji, in this paragraph says that if either be a person is curing from a disease, then after that also we do a medical treatment for the people. But for all the fruitful activities, the only call for all the fruitful activities, this can only be solved by when person will going to engage in a Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Very nice.
May I recite the next one, Mataji?
Yes.
In this connection, Sukadeva Goswami speaks in the sixth canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, second chapter, verse 17, about the story of Ajamila, who began life as a fine and dutiful Brahmana, but who in his young manhood became wholly corrupted by prostitute. At the end of his wicked life, just by calling the name of Narayana or Krishna, he was saved despite so much sin. Sukadeva points out the austerity, charity, and the performance of ritualistic ceremonies for counteracting sinful activities as recommended processes, but that by performing them, one cannot remove the sinful desires seed from the heart, as was can you scroll down, Mataji? Yeah. As was
What
Hare
happened?
Krishna, can you hear me, Mataji?
The case with the Ajamila in his youth.
Sorry, Mataji. Actually, my mic wasn't working for a while. Yeah. This sinful desire seed can be removed only by achieving Krishna consciousness. And this can be accomplished very easily by chanting the Mahamantra or Hare Krishna mantra, as recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In other words, unless one adopts the path of devotional service, he cannot be 100% clean from all the reactions of sinful activities. So, Mataji, in this,
You can conclude the story. Here we have taken an example of Ajamila. Okay.
okay, Mataji.
Yeah.
So,
Next.
yeah. By performing Vedic ritualistic activities, by giving money in charity, and by undergoing austerity, one can temporarily become free from the reactions of sinful activities. But at the next moment, he must engage in sinful activities. For example, a person suffering from venereal disease on account of excessive indulgence in sex life has to undergo some severe pain in medical treatment, and he is then cured for the time being. But because he has not been able to remove the sex desire from his heart, he must not again indulge in the same thing and become a victim of the same disease. So, medical treatment may give him temporary relief from the distress of such venereal disease. But unless one is trained to understand that sex life is abdominal, it is impossible to be saved from such repeated distress. Similarly, the ritualistic performance, charity, and austerity that are recommended in the Vedas may temporarily stop one from acting in sinful ways, but as long as the heart is not clear, one will have to repeat the sinful activities again and again. So, in this paragraph, they have said that.
Example of a person who is addicted to what do you say, venereal diseases, because he is addicted to sex life. Unless he refrain himself from the sex life, he cannot be free from that. Similarly, a person who is in the process of devotional service, if they do something as per the Veda, he'll be good. But unless and until his heart is not clear, he cannot progress further.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Another example is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, concerns the elephant who enters into a lake and takes a bath very seriously, cleansing his body thoroughly. Then, as soon as he comes onto shore, he again takes some dust from earth and throws it over his body. Similarly, a person who is not trained in Krishna consciousness cannot become completely free from the desire for sinful activities. Neither the yoga process, nor the philosophical speculations, nor fruitive activities can save one from the seeds of sinful desires. Only by being engaged in devotional service, one service can this be done. There is another evidence in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 22nd chapter, verse 39, wherein Santa Kumara says, "My dear king, the false ego of a human being is so strong that it keeps him in materialistic existence as if tied up by a strong rope. Only the devotees can cut off the knot of the strong rope very easily by engaging themselves in Krishna consciousness. Others who are not in Krishna consciousness but who are trying to become great mystics or great ritual performers cannot advance like the devotees. Therefore, it is the duty of everyone to engage himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness in order to be freed from the tight knot of false ego and engagement in the material activities."
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
It's
Mataji.
self-explanatory. We need not explain, no, just they are citing certain examples. Okay. Next, I think Vaishnavi, you can read.
Yes, Mataji. Just a minute. This tight knot of false ego is due to ignorance, as uh, as long as one is ignorant, about his identity, he is sure to act wrongly and thereby become entangled in material contamination. This ignorance of factual knowledge can also be dissipated by Krishna consciousness, as is confirmed in the Padma Purana as follows. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the highest enlightenment, and when such enlightenment is there, it is just like a blazing forest fire, killing all the inauspicious snakes of desire. The example is being given in this connection that when there is a forest fire, the extensive blazing automatically kills all the snakes in the forest. There are many, many snakes on the ground of the forest, and when a fire takes place, it burns the dried foliage, and the snakes are immediately attacked. Animals who have four legs can flee from the fire, or can at least try to flee, but, but the snakes are immediately killed. Similarly, the blazing fire of Krishna consciousness is so strong that the snakes of ignorance are immediately killed.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Next. You can continue.
Okay. Krishna consciousness is all auspicious. Srila Rupa Goswami have given a definition of auspiciousness. He says that actual auspiciousness means welfare activities for all the people of the world. At the present moment, groups of people are engaged in welfare activities in terms of society, community, or nation. There is even an attempt in the form of United Nations for World Health Activity, but due to the shortcomings of limited national activities, such a general mass welfare program for the whole world is not practically possible. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, is so nice that it can render the highest benefit to the entire human race. Everyone can be attracted by this movement, and everyone can feel the result. Therefore, Rupa Goswami and other learned scholars agree that a propaganda program for Krishna consciousness movement of devotional service all over the world is the highest humanitarian welfare activity. How the Krishna consciousness movement can attract the attention of the whole world and how each and every man can feel pleasure in this Krishna consciousness is stated in the Padma Purana as follows. A person who is engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is to be understood to be doing the best service to the world, best service to the whole world, and to be pleasing everyone in the world. In addition to human society, he is pleasing even the trees and animals because they also become attracted by such a movement. A practical example is that of this was shown by Lord Chaitanya when he was traveling through the forests of Jharikhanda in central India for spreading the Sankirtana movement. The tigers, the elephants, the deer, and all the other wild animals joined him and were participating in their own way by dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. Furthermore, a person engaged in Krishna consciousness, acting in devotional service, can develop all the good qualities that are generally found in the demigod. It is said by Sukadeva Goswami in the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 18th chapter, verse 12. My dear king, persons who have unflinching faith in Krishna and are without any duplicity can develop all the good qualities of the demigods on account of a devotee's high grade of Krishna consciousness. Even the demigods like to live with him, and therefore it can be understood that the qualities of the demigods have developed within his body. On the other hand, a person who is not in Krishna consciousness has no good qualities. He may be highly educated from the academic point of view, but in the actual field of his activities, he can be seen to be baser than the animals. Even though a person is highly educated academically, If he cannot be beyond the sphere of mental activities, then he is sure to perform only material activities and thus remain impure.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah. You can explain this?
which paragraph, Mataji, since I started?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is
Yes.
okay. I think this is self-explanatory, no? Pure devotion.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, automatically. See, it will kill the blazing fire. It is compared to the blazing fire. Automatical one is in Krishna consciousness. It will kill the desire, which is compared to the snakes here, isn't it? So when there is a blazing fire in the forest, so snakes are the one which will be killed. The rest of the animals will escape anyhow, but snakes cannot. So it has been compared to that. Next is the Krishna consciousness is all auspicious. Yes.
Yes, Mataji. In this, we come to understand that how Krishna consciousness movement can help many people in the world
Mm-hmm.
because of the shortcomings of this limited national activities from the United Nations. Not a general mass of welfare programs can be practically possible in the whole world. But once people are attracted to Krishna consciousness movement and the devotional service, then it would be the highest humanitarian welfare for the activity, welfare activity for the human beings. And this is not only for the human beings, but also for the plants and animals present all over around us. And such an example is given here about Lord Chaitanya when he was traveling in the forest of Jharkhand in the central India for spreading the Sankirtana movement. Even the tigers, elephants, deers, and other wild animals joined him and participated in their own ways by dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. And also here in the next paragraph, Srila Sukadeva Goswami in the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 18th chapter, verse 12, tells the king that those people who have unflinching faith in Krishna and without duplicity can develop all the good qualities of demigods. On the account of a devotee's high grade of Krishna consciousness, even the demigods like to live with him. And therefore, it can be understood that the qualities of demigods are developed within the body. And on the other hand, the person who is not in Krishna consciousness has no good qualities, even though he is well educated, highly educated in the academic point of view. But he is only doing the material activities and stays impure, which is even baser than the animals. And in the modern world, there are many people who are materialistically educated, but this Krishna consciousness movement can develop high qualities of demigods in them too. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next.
For example, a Krishna consciousness boy, even if he is not very well educated by the university standard, can immediately give up all illicit sex, live gambling, meat eating, and intoxication. Whereas those who are not in Krishna consciousness, although very highly educated, are often drunkard, meat eaters, sex mongers, and gamblers. These are practical proofs of how a Krishna consciousness person becomes highly developed in good qualities, where a person who is not in a Krishna consciousness cannot do so. We experience that even a young boy in Krishna consciousness is unattached to cinemas, nightclubs, naked dance shows, restaurants, liquor shops. He becomes completely freed. He saves his valuable time from being extrovert spent in the way of smoking, drinking, attending the theater, and dancing. So in this, a person who is a boy who is not very well educated and who is not been engaged in a Krishna consciousness, he will be much more interested in the materialistic world. And whereas the person who is much more interested in, who's much more, who has given a much more life in the Krishna consciousness, he will going to save his valuable time for being extravagantly spent in the way of just like smoking and drinking, attending the theater and dancing. One who is not in a Krishna consciousness usually cannot sit silently even for half an hour. A person who is not at all interested in Krishna consciousness, he can't be sit for even a half an hour. The yoga system teaches that if you become silent, you will realize that you are God. The system may all be right for materialistic person, But how long will they be able to keep themselves silent? Artificially, this may sit down for so-called meditation, but immediately after their yogic performance, they will engage themselves again in such activities like internet sex and live gambling, meat eating, and many others nonsensical things. But a Krishna consciousness person gradually elevates himself without endeavoring for this so-called silent meditation simply because he is engaged in Krishna consciousness. He automatically gives us all the nonsense and develop his high character. One develop his highest character by becoming a pure devotee of Krishna, and the conclusion is that no one can truly have any good qualities if he is lacking Krishna consciousness. So, Mataji, in this paragraph, a person who is not at all interested in engaged in Krishna consciousness cannot be sit for an half an hour. And according to yoga, if a person becomes silent, so he will rise that he is a god. So the person is much more in interested in materialistic world. After that, a person is doing meditation, and again he's all interested in sinful activities, that he all is in sinful activities, always a non-sexual non-sensual things, that is not mean that a person is not been engaged in a Krishna consciousness. So a person who is engaged in a Krishna consciousness, he automatically gives us all the nonsense things and always develops a high character. So one develops high character, and if one person develops a high character, he become a pure devotee of Krishna. And the conclusion is that one if a person cannot develops a cannot have a good qualities if he is not at all engaged in Krishna consciousness, or person is if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
May I recite the next one, Mataji?
Yes.
Happiness in Krishna consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami has analyzed the different sources of happiness. He has divided happiness into three categories, which are first one, happiness derived from material enjoyment. Happiness derived by identifying oneself with the Supreme Brahman, and happiness derived from Krishna consciousness. In the Tantra Shastra, Lord Shiva speaks to his wife Sati in this way: My dear wife, a person who has surrendered himself at the lotus feet of Govinda and who has thus developed pure Krishna consciousness can be easily awarded all the perfections desired by the impersonalists. And beyond this, he can enjoy the happiness achieved by the pure devotees. Happiness derived from pure devotional service is the highest because it is eternal. The happiness derived from material perfection or understanding oneself to be a Brahman is inferior because it is temporary. There's no preventing one's falling down from material happiness, and there is even chance of falling down from the spiritual happiness derived by identifying oneself with the impersonal Brahman. It has been seen in the great Mayavadi impersonalist sannyasi, very highly educated and almost realized soul, may sometimes take a political activities or social welfare activities. The reason is that they actually do not derive any ultimate transcendental happiness in the impersonal understanding, and therefore must come down to the material platform and take to such mundane affairs. There are many instances, especially in India, where these Mayavadi sannyasis descend to the material platform again, but a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness will never return to any sort of material platform. However alluring and attracting they may be, he always knows that no material welfare activities can compare to the spiritual activity of Krishna consciousness. The mystic perfections achieved by actually successful yogis are 8 in number. Anima Siddhi refers to the power by which one can become so small that he can even enter into a stone. Modern scientific improvements also enable us to enter into stone because they provide for excavating so many subways, penetrating the hills, etc. So, Anima Siddhi, the mystic perfection of trying to enter into stone, has also been achieved by material science. Similarly, all of the yogi siddhis or perfections are material arts. For example, in one yoga siddhi, there is development of the power to become so light that one can float in the air or on water. That is also being performed by modern scientists. They are flying in air by they are floating on the surface of water. They are traveling under the water. After comparing all these mystic yoga siddhis to materialistic perfections, we can find that the materialistic scientists tried for the same perfections. So actually, there's no difference between mystic perfection and materialistic perfection. A German scholar once said that the so-called yoga perfections had already been achieved by the modern scientists, and so he was not concerned with them. He intelligently went to India to learn how he could understand his eternal relationship with Supreme Lord by means of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service.
Yes. Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Next, Shweta, you continue. Yes.
Mataji, may I?
Yes.
Of course, in the categories of mystic perfection, there are certain processes that the material scientists have not yet able to develop. For instance, a mystic yogi can enter into the sun planet simply by using the rays of the sunshine. This perfection is called laghima. Similarly, a yogi can touch the moon with his finger, though the modern astronauts go to the moon with the help of spaceships. They undergo many difficulties, whereas a person with mystic perfection can extend his hand and touch the moon with his finger. This siddhi is called prapti or acquisition. With this Prapti Siddhi, not only can the perfect mystic yogi touch the moon planet, but he can extend his hand anywhere and take whatever he likes. He may be sitting thousands of miles from a certain place, and if he likes, he can take a fruit from a garden there. This is Prapti Siddhi. The modern scientists have manufactured nuclear weapons with which they can destroy an insignificant part of this planet, but by the yoga siddhi known as Ishita, one can create and destroy an entire planet simply at will. Another profession is called Vasita, and by this profession, one can bring anyone under his control. This is a kind of hypnotism. This is almost irresistible. Sometimes it is found that a yogi who may have attained a little perfection in the Vashishta mystic power comes out among the people and speaks all sorts of nonsense, controls the mind and exploits them and takes their money and then goes away. So in the first two paragraphs, they have explained about how a mystic yogi can have access into the sun planets through the sunlight, entering through the sunlight and by the through the moon by taking whatever he wants. So so that perfection of his access towards the sun, to a sun planet is known as Lagima, and towards this moon planet is known as Prapti Siddhi. So only a perfect mystic yogi can do that, not a normal person. I meant he may be sitting thousands of miles away from a certain place, and if he likes, he can take a food from a garden. That is Prapti Siddhi. Uh, that is how great sages have an access towards the moon planet. They stay there for 10,000 years and then come back on planet Earth. So in the next paragraph, they have said the modern scientists have manufactured nuclear weapons. So we have seen in so many news articles about new satellites being made, new arms and ammunitions to fight the rival country. But this has led to nothing but destruction. There's another perfection known as Vasishtha, and by this perfection, one can bring anyone under his control. This is a kind of hypnotism that is almost irresistible. Sometimes it is found that a yogi may have attained a little perfection, but in this Vashishta mystic power, he might actually play with the minds of people. So, which is not, which is actually a sinful activity. So so there's another mystic perfection which is known as Prakamya, magic. By this Prakamya power, one can achieve anything he likes. For example, one can make water enter into his eye and then again come out from within the eye. Simply by his will, he can perform such wonderful activities. So there are another sort of a mystic person or mystic or sage who can, who can withdraw and who can use his qualities given by God. So we have covered three things: moon, the sunlight, and the magic. On how the withdrawal of water which enters into his eye, and he can bring it back, make the water come back into his original form by his will. He can perform such wonderful activities. The highest perfection of mystic power is called Kama Vashayita. This is also magic, but whereas the Prakamya power acts to create wonderful effects within the scope of nature, that is Kama Vashita, permits one to contradict nature. In other words, to do the impossible. Of course, one can derive great amounts of temporary happiness by achieving such yogic materialistic perfections. So whatever the great sages have achieved, the mystic powers, they are not permanent in nature; they are temporary. So the highest among the mystic powers received by demigods, namely is the Kama Vashayita. So they can play with nature. Again, and they can do whatever they want with their God gifted powers. They can do make the impossible into possible. That is their quality, and they can derive many temporary happiness, which is temporary happiness by performing such pastimes. Shall I read the next paragraph, Mataji?
Yes.
Foolishly, people who are enamored of the glimmer of modern materialistic advancement are thinking that the Krishna conscious movement is for less intelligent men. I am better being busy with my material comforts, maintaining a nice apartment, family, and sex life. So this is what nowadays movies they show. They're only if you want to have a good life, you have to have these three things should be perfect. But this is not what perfection is. Perfection is when you are Krishna conscious and you perform devotional service to the Lord by reciting his pastimes and reading and gaining information related to Krishna. These people do not know that at any point and at any moment they may be kicked out of the material situation if things don't work according to their way. So they become very sad, depressed. Due to ignorance, they do not know the real life is eternal. The temporary comforts of body are not the goal of life, but it is due only to darkest ignorance that people become enamored of the glimmering advancement of material comforts. Srila Bhakti Vinoda Thakura has therefore said that the advancement of material knowledge renders a person more foolish because it causes one to forget his real identity by its glimmer. This is a doom for him because this human form of life is meant for getting out of material contamination. The advancement of material knowledge, people are becoming more and more entangled in material existence. They have no hope of being liberated from this catastrophe. So in this paragraph, in this paragraph, It means that by performing Krishna, by being Krishna conscious and performing devotional service, one can come out of this illusion of these three things, which forms a perfect life, maintaining a nice apartment, family, and sex life, which is not the only thing. So it is beyond that. When you worship Krishna, you use the purpose of this human life by performing activities uh, for Krishna as a form of gratitude. Should I read the next paragraph?
Yes, I think Vaishnavi, you can continue now.
Okay, Mataji.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
In the Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya, it is stated that Prahlad Maharaja, a great devotee of the Lord, prayed to Narsimha the half lion and half man incarnation, as follows: My dear Lord, I repeatedly pray unto you, your lotus feet, that I may simply be stronger in devotional service. I simply pray that my Krishna consciousness may be more strong and steady, because happiness derived out of Krishna consciousness and devotional service is so powerful that with it one can have all the other perfections of religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and even the attainment of liberation from the material world.
Yes, you can.
Actually, a pure yes, Mataji?
Yes, you can continue. I think these
Yeah.
are self-explanatory. We need not explain also.
Actually, a pure devotee does not aspire any. Um, actually, a pure devotee does not aspire after any of these perfections, because the happiness derived from from devotional service in Krishna consciousness is so transcendental and so unlimited that no other happiness can compare to it. It is said that even one drop of happiness in Krishna consciousness stands beyond comparison with an ocean of happiness derived from any other activity. Thus, any person who has developed even a little quantity of pure devotional service can very easily kick out all the other kinds of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. There was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya known as Kolavecha Sridhara, who was a very poor man. He was doing a small business selling cups made from the leaves of plantain trees, and his income was almost nothing. Still, he was spending 50% of his small income on the worship of the Ganga, and with the other 50%, he was somehow living. Lord Chaitanya once revealed himself to this confidential devotee, Kolavecha Sridhara, and offered him any opulence he liked. But Sridhara informed the Lord that he did not want any material opulence. He was quite happy in his present position and wanted only to gain unflinching faith and devotion unto the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. That is the position of pure devotees. If they can be engaged 24 hours each day in devotional service, they do not want anything else, not even the happiness of liberation or of becoming one with the Supreme. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is also said that any person who has developed even a small amount of devotional service doesn't care a fig for any kind of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, or the five kinds of liberation. Any kind of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, liberation, or sense gratification cannot even dare to enter into the heart of the pure devotee. It is stated that as the personal attendant and maidservants of a queen follows the queen with all respect and obeisances. Similarly, the joys of religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation follow the devotional service of the Lord. In other words, a pure devotee does not lack any kind of happiness derived from any source. He does not want anything but service to Krishna. But even if he should have another desire, the Lord fulfills this without the devotee's asking. The rareness of pure devotional service. In the preliminary phase of spiritual life, there are different kinds of austerities, penances, and similar processes for attaining self realization. However, even if an executor of these processes is without any material desire, he still cannot achieve devotional service. And aspiring by oneself alone to achieve devotional service is also not very hopeful, because Krishna does not agree to award devotional service to merely anyone. Krishna can easily offer a person material happiness or even liberation, but he does not agree very easily to award a person engagement in his devotional service. Devotional service can, in fact, be attained only through the mercy of a pure devotee. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19.151, it is stated, by the mercy of the spiritual master, who is a pure devotee, and by the mercy of Krishna, one can achieve the platform of devotional service. There is no other way. The rarity of devotional service is also confirmed in the Tantra Shastra, where Lord Shiva says to Sati, "My dear Sati, if one is a very fine philosopher, analyzing the different processes of knowledge, he can achieve liberation from the material entanglement by performance of the ritualistic sacrifices recommended in the Veda. One can be elevated to the platform of pious activities and thereby enjoy the material comforts of life to the fullest extent. But all such endeavors can hardly offer anyone devotional service to the Lord, not even if one tries for it by such processes for many, many thousands of births. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed by Prahlad Maharaja that merely by personal efforts or by the instruction of higher authorities, one cannot attain to the stage of devotional service. One must become blessed by the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee, who is completely freed from the contamination of material desire. In the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, sixth chapter, verse 18, Narada also says to Yudhishthira, "My dear king, it is Lord Krishna, known as Mukunda, who is the eternal protector of the Pandavas and the Yadus. He is also your spiritual master and instructor in every respect. He is the only worshipable God for you. He is very dear and affectionate, and he is the director of all your activities, both individual and familial. And what's more, he sometimes carries out your orders as if he were your messenger. My dear king, how very fortunate you are, because for others all these favors given to you by the Supreme Lord would not even be dreamt of. The purport for this verse is that the Lord easily offers liberation, but he rarely agrees to offer a soul devotional service, because by devotional service the Lord himself becomes purchased by the devotee. The happiness of becoming one with the Supreme.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I think Vaibhav, you can continue.
Yeah, Mataji. Srila Rupa Goswami. Mataji, can you please slide upward? I think. Yeah. Srila Rupa Goswami says that if Brahman or the happiness of becoming ones with the Supreme is multiplied 1 trillion fold, it still cannot compare to an atomic fraction of the happiness derived from the ocean of devotional service. In the Hari Bhakti, Sridhar Prahlad Maharaj, while satisfying Lord Narsimhadev by his praying, said, "My dear Lord of the universe, I am feeling transcendental pleasure in your presence and have become merged in the ocean of happiness. Now and now I consider the happiness of Brahman to be no more than the water in the impression left by the cow hoof in the earth compared to the ocean of bliss. Similarly, it is confirmed in the Bhavarta Deepika Sridhara Swami contemporary on the Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear Lord, some of the fortunate person who are swimming in the ocean of your nectar of devotion are who are relishing the nectar of the narration of your pastimes certainly knows sketches that immediately minimize the value of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Such a transcendental devotee regard any kind of happiness other than devotional service as no better than straw in the street. Attracting Krishna. Mataji, please slide. Yeah. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated that devotional service attract even Krishna. Krishna attracted everyone, but devotional service attract Krishna. Thus, the symbol of devotional service is the highest degree is Radharani. Krishna is called Madan Mohan, which means that he is so attractive that he can defeat the attraction of thousands of cupids. But Radharani is still more attractive, for she can even attract Krishna. Therefore, devotees call her Madan Mohan Mohini, the attractor of the attractor of Cupid. To perform devotional service means to follow in the footstep of Radharani, and the devotees in Vrindavan put themselves under the care of Radharani in order to achieve perfection in the devotional service. In other words, devotional service is not an activity of the material world. It is directly under the control of Radharani. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the Mahatmas or the great soul are under the protection of Devi Prakriti, the internal energy. Radharani so being directly under the control of the internal potency of Krishna, devotional service attract even Krishna himself. This fact is corroborated by Krishna in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 14th chapter, verse 20, where he says, "My dear Uddhav, you may know it from me that the attraction I feel devotional service rendered by my devotees is not to be attained even by the perfection of mystic yoga, philosophical speculation, ritualistic sacrifices, the study of Vedanta, the practice of savior austeries or the giving of everything in the charity. There are of course very nice activities, but they are not so as attractive to me as the transcendental loving service rendered by my devotees. How Krishna becomes attracted by the devotional service of his devotees is described by Narada in the Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto 10th chapter verse 48 and 49. Narada addressed King Yudhishthir while the king is appreciating the glories of the chapter of Prahlad Maharaj. A devotee always appreciates the activities of other devotees. Yudhishthir Maharaj was appreciating the qualities of Prahlad, and that is one symptom of pure devotee. A pure devotee never thinks himself great. He always thinks that other devotees are greater than himself. The king was thinking Prahlad Maharaj is actually a devotee of the Lord while I am nothing. And while thinking, he was addressed by Narada as follows: My dear King Yudhishthir, you, the Pandav brother, are the only fortunate people in the world. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared on this planet and is presenting himself to you as an ordinary human being. He is always with you in all circumstances. He is living with you and covering himself from his eyes of others. Others cannot understand that he is a supreme Lord, but he is still living with you as your cousin, as your friend, and even as your messenger. Therefore, you must know that nobody in the world is more fortunate than you. In Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna appeared in his universal form, Arjuna prayed, My dear Krishna, I thought of you as my cousin brother, and so I have shown disrespect to you in so many ways, calling you Krishna or friend, but you are so great that I could not understand. So that was the position of the Pandavas. Although Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead, the the greatest among all greats, he reminded with those royal brothers, being attracted by the devotion, by the friendship, and by their love. That is a proof of how great this process of devotional service. It can attract even the supreme personality of Godhead. God is great, but devotional service is greater than God because it attracts him. People who are not in devotional service can never understand what value there is in rendering service to the Lord. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. At last we have completed. This was quite lengthy, Nectar of Devotion, but it was nice. Everything was self-explanatory, no?
Yeah,
We
ma'am.
could understand there is no need of explanation also. Different qualities of Krishna, what do you say, Krishna, devotee, pure devotee, what are the different qualities? It has been subdivided and everything has been explained in detail. Yeah. Uh, Anything else you wanted to ask?
Mataji, I have prepared my PPT.
Oh, you wanted to present?
Yeah, Mataji.
Okay, fine. Go
Please
ahead.
make me host, co-host.
Okay. Oh. Mm. Actually, Vaibhav, we have formed a different group, level 3 participants. That's the reason why we don't have your number. So that is the reason why I have asked your number.
No, Mataji, I have added him.
Yeah. And Vaishnavi, what we can do is this Friday 8 p.m. we can have a group call
Okay, Mataji.
for not more than 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna Mataji. In
Hare-
chapter 5, shall I start?
Yes.
In chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes how to attain perfection by Nishkam Karma Yoga or work without expectation of return. In the 6th chapter, Krishna explains the process of Ashtanga Yoga or meditation as a means to control one's mind and sense. Krishna also says by doing Ashtanga Yoga, eating vegetarian food, meditating on him, one can uplift themselves to state of sattva. So let us know, according to Krishna, what is yoga. So yoga is a balanced state of thought and intellect. Yoga is a balanced state of behavior. Yoga is to maintain equilibrium of the mind in any situation. Lord Krishna defines yoga as samatvam yog uchyate. Samatvam means in a balanced state. Uchyate means sad to be. And yoga is a balanced state of body, mind, and emotions. There are 8 limbs of yoga, or we say the Ashtanga Yoga. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. Repeating again, Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. According to Krishna, Karma Yoga is the spiritual practice of selfless action performed for the benefit of others. Karma Yoga is the path to reach moksha, that is spiritual liberation through work. First, Yam. Yam is the first step in the Ashtanga Yoga. It stands for abstinence as well as the forbearance. It requires such restraints over mind, body, and speech as will prevent one from violence, falsehood, theft, incontinence, and greediness. So there are some restraints and the moral codes. We call it yams. And there are 5 principles. We do have ahimsa means non-violence, satya means truthfulness, aste means non-stealing, brahmachari means unity, and aparigraha means non-greed. Next, we do have niyam, or we say the second limb of yoga. Niyam represent a series of right living or the ethical rules with yoga. Philosophy, it means training or in control. They are restraints for proper conduct as given as yoga, as given the Vedas, as the Yoga Sutra. So there are rules and the guidelines, or we say the observance. First is Shauch, means purity of both mind and body. The second one is Santosh, or we say contentment. The third one is Tap, or we say self-discipline. The fourth one is Jap, or we say chanting. And the third one and the fifth one is Ishwar Paridan, means surrender to God principle. Third Ashtang Yoga is Asana. So asana is a specifically yoga position. Asana can be performed to improve flexibility, strength, and balance. So asana is a position that is steady and comfortable. It is a physical practice of yoga and relates to the body. So asana is also the another name for the pose or the posture of yoga. The fourth limb of yoga is pranayama. So pranayama means control of breath. It is composed of 2 words, pran and ayam. So pran can be referred to as energy, life, breath, whereas ayam is referred to extension, expansion, or control breathing. In combination, it means a series of techniques for controlling and expanding the dimension of pran. So the Lord Krishna in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita introduced different yogas to attain salvation of oneness with God. He talks of pranayam as a very useful way of moving forward on a path of self-attainment and salvation for an aspirant. Next, we do have pratyahar. So pratyahar means withdrawal of senses. It is a 5th limb of yoga in the Ashtanga Yoga system, also called the 8 limb path, and it serves as a foundation for meditation. So pratyahar is a Sanskrit term generally translated as a withdrawal of senses. So prati means withdraw and ahar means food. By proper conviction and intellectual, one should gradually cease sense activities. This we call it pratyahar. The next one is dharana. So the dharana means collection or concentration of mind. So So dharana, Sanskrit word meaning concentration, or we say the sixth limb of yoga in the Ashtanga Yoga system, also called the eight limb path. The goal of dharana is to bind your consciousness to one particular object, place, or idea. Now the next Ashtanga Yoga is Dhyan. So Sanskrit word meaning contemplation and meditation is the seventh limb of yoga. Dhyan leads to Samadhi or the superconscious state, and the eighth stage of Ashtanga Yoga, it refers to concentration on specific objects, sounds, or action. And the word dhyan is an implay to meditation. Now, the last but not the least, the last is samadhi. So, this a state of intense concentration achieved through meditation in yoga is regarded to as a final state at which union is divine. It reached with the union with the divine is reached, or we say a total self-collectedness. So, the highest state of mental concentration that people can achieve while still bounding to the body and which unites them with the highest reality. Samadhi is completely emptiness of the mind, and on the path of bhakti, samadhi means total absorption, and it is the last stage of Ashtanga Yoga. Now it's time for the quiz time. We really want the devotees should answer the question. Mataji, shall I start?
Okay. Only 2 participants are there. No issue.
No problem. Question number 1. Pranayam is a which part of Ashtanga Yoga? Option number 1 first, B is third, C is sixth, D is fourth. Any guesses?
The third one.
No.
The sixth one.
No. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam. The answer is fourth.
Oh, okay.
Question number 2. Out of the following, which one not is an Ashtanga Yoga? Yam,
The C.
Niyam.
Dhoti.
Yeah.
Dhoti.
Yeah, that's the correct answer. Yes, dhoti. Question number 3. Which is one word meaning of yoga? Yogi, sadhana, meditation,
Meditation.
join or unite?
Join or unite.
Yes, the correct answer is join or unite. The last question. Self-observation is pratyahara, niyams, asana, ya yam.
Yamas.
Self-observation.
The D option.
Mataji,
Pratyahara.
would you- it's niyam.
Pratyahara.
Niyams. So dharana is concentration. True or false?
False.
Any guesses?
False.
Dharana, see, I'm again summarizing. It's a collection of concentration of the mind.
True,
Okay, then it's true.
A.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, then these are the answers. Fourth, dhoti, join or
Good
unite,
presentation,
niyam.
Prabhu.
Very nice.
Yes. So ending
Very
with
nice.
this, thank you so much. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Should start with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, conclude with the Prabhupada. Okay, no issue. Very nice. Well presented. I think Fridays we can have presentations now instead of a short meeting. But students should join here. Yeah.
Yes, Mataji, there are only few people joining and
Yeah.
not all can make a presentation every week now.
Yeah. I think no issue. We'll come out with solution. Fine. We'll conclude by saying the Narsimati.
Yes, Mataji. Shall I start?
Yes.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadayine. Hiranyakashiporvakshaha. Shilatankarnakhalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yami tato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. नरसिंहम् आदिं शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे नखाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गं दलितहिरण्यकशिपोर्तनुभृङ्गम् केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद हरे कृष्णा
हरे कृष्ण वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Thank you, co-host and participant, for your active participation. See you all next weekend. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण